right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Running with Wolves. I am so excited about today because this is a kind of episode I've actually never done with you guys before, but I was actually in the middle of prepping my content for next week and just prepping my strategy. And I thought, why not take you along with me to basically walk you through my entire process of determining what next week's strategy is going to be that I actually know is going to bring me in 6 figures in sales minimum. Because there's a lot of people who ask me questions of like, well, how do I put together this marketing strategy? What does that look like? What does your process look like? So I figured honestly I would give you guys a little sneak peek into that. So let's get into this. If you guys are listening to this on Spotify, I do think it would probably be easiest for you guys to watch this on YouTube, because my goal is to insert a bunch of different like screenshots for you guys of data and all this different stuff. So I would definitely recommend, if there's ever an episode that you would watch on YouTube, it would be this one. You'll still be able to follow along if you're listening to it. But for those of you guys watching on YouTube right now, I definitely think you're going to really love this one. So step number 1 in determining any marketing strategy, but even specifically for myself, is to get a very clear picture of where your target audience is at when it comes to the buying journey. Because what that's going to tell me is like the content pillars that I need to be putting out. So if my audience was super fucking cold, I would need to put out a lot more warming content, versus if they're really hot, but I just need to get them over the finish line in order to buy, I would need to create a lot of urgency, objection handling, things like that. So the first thing that I do, a lot of people will basically brain dump like all of their content ideas and then be like, that one sounds good. No, the first thing that I do is I look at my data and I basically determine where my audience is at in the buying journey based on how they're behaving. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that in just a second. And then from there, I basically lay out, okay, I have X amount of posts per week on my Instagram feed, TikTok, etc. And I know that these are the types of content I need to create. So that is going to be step number 1. So that's what we're going to do right now. So the data that I typically look at to determine where we're at is going to basically be inquiries. It's going to be link clicks. It's going to be profile visits. It's going to be engagement with my content, visibility, etc. So essentially, any of those areas that's lacking tells me where my audience is at. So for example, if my audience, I was going viral consistently, they were binging my content, but I wasn't getting any leads or inquiries, that tells me that conversion side of things is lacking. Because if I was creating converting content for them, which I am, obviously this is just an example, if I was creating converting content for them, they would be inquiring. So the place that I track my link clicks is Bitly. The reason that I do this is because I like to make sure that I can basically track everywhere that the link clicks are coming from, like per platform, per day. And then I also like to make sure that I can actually track when someone clicks on, let's say, my Instagram link in bio. Each of those links are unique as well. And so I will actually track like exactly where they go from there. So let's say if I have 500 clicks on one day in the link in my bio, then I only have 5 clicks that go to my application and everything else goes to free resources. I'm like, cool, those are not really the people that I want to be working with, right? Those are the wrong people. So I need to work on attracting the right people in. Okay, so I'm just logging into Bitly. This is where I'm also going to make sure that I create some screenshots for you guys. Okay, so like I was saying, with Bitly, that is my favorite place to house all of my links because, number 1, it allows you to create unique links for each page on your website. So for example, my sales page for the accelerator is on every single link in bio for every single marketing platform that I have. It's in emails, it's in my podcast episode descriptions. And if I create a unique Bitly link for each of those different platforms, let's say somebody inquires about the accelerator, I know exactly where they came from because of those unique links. It also just makes it easier for me to understand like what platforms are performing the best, things like that. So usually what I look at is the last 30 days and basically what Bitly gives me. I'm going to insert like a screenshot here of kind of what the analytics report looks like within Bitly. What I look at is this is all link clicks, right? So remember how I told you we're going to look at link clicks, profile views, all the things. And then I also cross-reference that with our lead tracker because I often have people who basically send in applications. And then I have people who also just straight up DM me and inquire. So then I go through my lead tracker and see like, okay, link clicks, inquiries, whether they're applications or DMs, how many did we get and on certain days? So again, this is giving me two pieces of information. Number one, I'm ruling out if the conversion section is our biggest issue, or like what is basically doing the best so I can double down on that. Right now, we're kicking ass when it comes to sales. So there's not really a lot in my strategy that I'm looking to fix. It's more so what I'm looking to double down on. So I'm looking at the screenshot I'm inserting for you guys just as a reference. So in the last 30 days, which is usually what I look at per platform, we've had 502 clicks on the link in my bio. So as you can see here, Instagram link in bio has 318 total clicks. 41 of those went to the accelerator sales page, 38 went to our shop page, which is basically like master classes, things like that. 30 went to the podcast, 29 went to the application, and it kind of keeps going down the list, but those are the main ones that I care about. So that's actually really great for me to note, because the top places that people are going when they click on the link in my bio is finding out where to work with me, how to work with me. And then on top of that, they're basically wanting to binge more of my stuff, right? Then you can also see total engagements over time. So that graph right above there basically shows the link clicks per day that we were getting on Instagram and how many we were getting. So as you can see, there's some pretty significant spikes here. So anything above 30 is kind of what I look at. So on, it looks like the 9th or the 10th, maybe the 10th, I can't tell. If you hover over it on Bitly, it'll tell you the exact date. So October 9th or 10th, October 24th, and then October 29th, it looks like, are the top dates that we got link clicks on Instagram. So then what I do is I go and I look at, okay, what did I post on those days? So we said 10/9 or 10/10, I think. Let me look. Gotta scroll back here. Okay, so 10/9. Oh, you know what? I actually think it was 10/8. Yes, okay. It was probably 10/9, but 10/8 is what kicked it off. So I did a top of funnel reel that says, stop talking about your audience's problems or goals. And I was talking about how you can't just speak to a random problem. You have to speak to how your audience is experiencing that. Or a random goal, you have to speak to how your audience is experiencing that goal. And I got a shit ton of leads from this, like so many. So it makes sense that that's what drove the most link clicks, right? And so I've been doing a lot of that same content, but I haven't done this like, you said this, but you should have said it this way, top of funnel reel. So I'm going to write down all of this content. So like top of funnel reels, stop talking about your audience's problems and goals. You said it this way, but you should have said it this way. So I'll turn that into more content later, but that tells me what kind of content did really well for my audience to go to my link and explore more about basically working with me or learning from me. All right, you guys, I am interrupting this episode for a very important PSA. We need to have a conversation about how you are going to double your income in this next year. Odds are when you are listening to this podcast episode, you are probably making anywhere from 50 to 80K in sales per month. And you're sitting there tearing your hair out, trying to figure out how you're going to hit your next 100 or 150K months without working harder, posting more, posting on different platforms, or duct taping another funnel together with hopes and dreams. You've built a business that works and you're making really good money, but number one, it still relies on you to show up every freaking day to make that happen. And on top of that, you couldn't tell me what you need to double down on in order to double your income through your marketing. You're sick of wondering if this is just kind of like the plateau that everybody talks about, or if there's actually a smarter, more sustainable way to scale. And I want to give you a spoiler alert, but there is, I promise. And that is exactly where my accelerator tier 2 program comes into play. And I know that the majority of you guys are listening to these episodes literally being like, cool, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. And that's exactly what I walk you through. This is a hybrid, super exclusive, high-level mastermind where you get one-on-one access to me every single day through Slack, multiple different group calls per week, where I literally tell you one-on-one exactly what to post based on your data, your target audience, your products and services, so that not only do you just get to execute, you don't even really have to think about what to post for that day, but it creates the sales that you're looking for. This is not just passive coaching. This is hands-on strategy to execution partnership, which is designed to multiply your sales and finally get your business off of that plateau. It's basically like having me as your CMO in your back pocket. So if you want to have a conversation about if Accelerator is the right fit for you, or what the best support option is so that you can double or triple or quadruple your revenue and scale sustainably and predictably in the next year, I want you to DM me over on Instagram and just DM me tier 2. And I'll know you came from the podcast and we can kind of have a conversation about what the best level of support is for you. So I can't wait to hear from you guys, and let's get back into the episode. Okay, so then we said 1024. So now I'm going to scroll up to 1024. And the first place that I look is my feed, because usually that's the easiest thing to find. Okay, so 1024, I had another video that was watch me send my client a 30-minute loom ripping her marketing to shreds. And it was just behind the scenes footage. And it basically was me giving my client real-time feedback on her content. I was literally sending her a loom. I just like clipped out anything where you could hear something about her business or her offer. So watch me rip my audience's marketing to shreds, or sorry, clients. Okay, so I've made a note that that also created the most link clicks. And then lastly, we've got 1030, I believe that it is. Let's see, 1030. Was that a week ago? I hate that Instagram doesn't actually just give you, no, that was 4 days ago. Okay. I hate that Instagram goes 6 days ago, 4 days ago. I'm like, literally, I can't. Let's see here. Okay, so 5 days ago, I did a post that said, you don't need quote unquote more time to think. Apparently, you just need to lose 20K to the wrong coach, ads, or agency and waste 6 months of watching your sales flatline to realize you should have hired me. So that was a carousel. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go down to the analytics of that carousel and I'm going to look at the specific data. So this had 7 profile visits and 2 external link taps. So I actually don't think that that was the thing that caused that spike, because it was almost 30 link clicks. So that clearly didn't do it. So now let's go look at my stories to see if anything caused a spike on that date. So I'm going to look at my archives. And again, this is 1030. So I posted, let's see, the day before, because sometimes I'll look at the day before too. I said, step the fuck away from the agency or social media manager you're about to hire if you can't answer these questions. I did all of the questions. Then the next day, which was October 30th, I did, you don't need more time to think. Apparently that post, I just reposted it. Then I posted an accelerator tier 1 win. And then all I did was I posted the fact that I was watching Twilight with my girlfriend at like a rooftop cinema. So if I had to guess, actually let me cross-reference this with TikTok, because that's the other thing is sometimes if you have something kind of pop off on TikTok, a lot of times that can be the thing that like caused people to come over to your Instagram and then they go to the link in your bio. Okay, so October 30th, it was 5 days ago.
Quick question for you. My clients are...
I did a post that said, It was like my founder's story.
I had a full rot week.
Yeah. So I can cross-reference it actually with TikTok analytics. 10:30. 10:30 was one of the lowest days I got link clicks on TikTok, according to these analytics. So my assumption, because I know I also got DM inquiries from that post, was that that post in conjunction with my stories actually was what caused that spike in link clicks. So it was that objection handling of like, you should hire me now and not before, or like not after ads or like business coaches or things like that. Okay, so hire me now or here's the cost was kind of the gist of that, right? Okay, so that was Instagram. And then what I will actually do is I'll cross-reference all of the problems, all of the goals that my new clients have had, and I'll look at their sales conversations. Okay, so basically I went through my last couple of sales conversations of people who closed, and I walked through what they came to me with, what they were struggling with, what their concerns were, things like that. So somebody who just signed on to tier 2 was considering hiring another marketing agency. So that's very much on par with what I'm going to talk about with that content pillar we already talked about. Another one was going to hire an agency. This person who signed with me said they don't necessarily feel like their marketing has ever really resonated with them or felt like them, but they also can't get it to create sales. So something that I was going to talk about is the reason why you feel salesy or your messaging doesn't feel like you is because you're regurgitating somebody else's words instead of them taking your words and turning it into your marketing. And I'm basically going to create content talking about my process, how it's different and why it gets them better results. The other thing I was considering talking about, that popped into my head this morning, actually, when I was on the treadmill, but this is data-based because I had a sales call from somebody who was thinking about pouring money into ads. And she was like, I've done it before, didn't see great results from it, blah, blah, blah. I was going to say no amount of money poured into ads can bribe people to ignore your bad marketing and buy from you. The reason why that one is going to work is because it's going to get people's attention. All the other content I just looked at is very much like end of funnel content. And I always have two goals with my marketing based on where my audience is at. Bring new leads in and convert those leads. So I can post that to bring in new leads. And then I was also going to say, you could put out 5 pieces of content and make no sales this week, or you could let me give you an actual marketing strategy that converts instead and make 10 sales. The other thing I was also going to say is 2 of my clients this week came to me to tell me that they were selling and not getting leads. I gave them 1 content idea and they saw 8 leads and 5 leads from 1 piece of content. 1 person saw 8, 1 person saw 5. The mistake that they were making, their audience didn't see their solution as the one they needed, or they didn't realize the problem they had was what needed to be solved. So their service felt like a nice to have, not a need to have, so they didn't inquire. That is all based off of sales conversations I've had. People basically aren't getting leads or sales, but they don't know why. They think it's because they're not selling good enough or something like that, when in actuality, their audience doesn't even really know that their product or service solves their problems or that they even have a problem, which is a totally different type of marketing, right? So that is going to get people's attention that are new leads. You could put out 5 pieces of content, no amount of money poured into ads can bribe people to ignore your bad marketing and buy from you. I'm going to talk about ads with that one. All of that is designed to get people's attention. I'll probably talk about that over on TikTok as well. And then my end of funnel stuff is going to be around like, stop talking about your audience's problems and goals. You said it this way. You should have said it this way. Watch me rip my clients' marketing to shreds. More social proof. Hire me now or here's the cost. And then the reason you won't feel salesy or messaging doesn't feel like you is because you're regurgitating someone else's words instead of them taking your words and turning it into marketing. So that's all end of funnel stuff based on what I just saw in my data. It's talking about the same stuff, but just kind of in a different way, essentially. Okay, so let's continue. So let's see. I had another client who joined tier 1 who was having messaging issues tied to targeting her ideal client. She didn't necessarily know how to speak to her ideal client. She sells a high ticket offer, but doesn't know how to activate that audience to inquire or buy and pay that high ticket offer. She's doing a lot, but knows that she can go further faster with the right strategy everything feels hard. She hired a business coach and came back and that didn't work. So that plays into the content we were already going to talk about. So I could basically talk about how my clients tried to do it on their own, came back to me, and how much faster they saw results. That would kind of speak to what she was dealing with. And then high ticket messaging. She was saying, I charge high ticket, but no one's buying. And that's because high ticket marketing needs to be different than if you were selling a $5 offer, right? So I could basically talk about you're selling a $5,000 offer, but marketing it like a $5 offer, and you're wondering why no one's buying. And that would immediately trigger people to inquire about my services. And then lastly, I always do a minimum, I would say, of like 2 to 3 pieces of social proof per week. So over on TikTok, I'll do that. I have a bunch of client wins that I can pull from the last couple of weeks. Excuse me. My accelerator tier 2 client basically hit like a 60K cash month in October. And when she started working with me, she was at 31K months. So she's basically doubled her revenue because of just a couple different strategy changes. And she also, on top of that, hasn't put out any more content. And she's also not even implementing the full strategy. So I could talk about that. Let's see, I had a client who I gave her 1 content idea and it made her 8 leads in 4 hours. So I could talk about that. There's a bunch of other case studies that I can talk about, but I always try to do 2 to 3 at minimum. So the reason why I brainstormed those content ideas is based on the fact that when I look at my data, it essentially tells me that things are, like I said, going well. There's no like real problems that I'm seeing in our sales process right now. So I don't need to change anything in my marketing. But we are going into Black Friday, and I want to make sure that we're actually creating sales, that we are hitting our goals for Black Friday, things like that. So I want to double down and make sure that every piece of content that goes out is the kind of content that has gotten the most inquiries and leads. And I want to make sure it's based off of what my target audience is experiencing right now. So that's why I basically referred back to the kind of content that's gotten me the most link clicks, inquiries, leads, etc. And I'm basically pulling information from my other sales conversations to have this format of content go out. But then I'm using that information to make it a different kind of content so that it's still, my audience can see themselves in my marketing, but that formatting is proven to create a ton of inquiries and sales for me. So that's kind of what my strategy is going to look like next week. And the really cool part is that I know at minimum, this will bring in 250 to 300K in leads and a minimum of 100K in sales, if not more, because again, we're going into Black Friday. So hopefully that is helpful for you guys to kind of see what I look at, how I rinse and repeat different pieces of content, what data I look at, things like that. I know this was a little bit of a shorter episode, but I thought that this would be really fun for us to kind of pull this strategy together and I like walk you through what my strategy is going to be. Because honestly, usually we do this on our team meeting every single week where we just go through what the strategy needs to be next week based on what we're seeing. And it takes us 15 to 17 minutes, just like it did me just now. Creating a strategy does not need to be crazy. You just need to know what data to look at. You need to know how to respond to your audience. You need to know where they're at in the buying funnel, which is exactly what that data is going to tell you, how to customize that content based on what your audience is telling you. So your marketing is a conversation and not a monologue. And then you need to know how to, again, identify what's doing right and wrong, create more content ideas based off of what you're hearing in the sales conversations or your market research or your data. And it's just that rinse and repeat process. So if you guys have any questions about creating content that is the right strategy, how to put together a strategy, how to look at your data, any of those things, please, please, please send me a message on Instagram. I would love to answer your questions. If you want me to do this for your business so you can create insane sales for Black Friday, please, please, please send me a message on Instagram. And if there's anything else you would love to see me do in the podcast, send me that request over on Instagram. And then as always, no matter where you're streaming this, whether it is YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, doesn't matter. Make sure that you follow or subscribe, engage, leave comments, tell me what your favorite part of this was, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye guys.